schedule that I'm not so sure the committee is going to be in love with.
This is really intriguing to me because it is late in the season in November 9th. You mentioned, kind of the last chance for some of these schools. And we're going to get a lot of marquee matchups, always do with the conference season, and especially with the overbloated conferences in the Big Ten and in the SEC. That's going to lead to some really good matchups as the season goes along. But to get a big non-conference game like this late in the season, November 9th, that's what gets me excited. Again, both these teams going with transfer quarterbacks this year. A lot of pressure on both those guys in the first years in their school.
Yeah, that's a really, really juicy matchup, and it's the fifth best one on the college football calendar this year. Next.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Georgia versus Alabama. That game's being played on September the 28th. Kirby Smart went 1-5 head-to-head against Nick Saban. Nick Saban, of course, no longer there. It's now Kalen DeBoer, who is probably going to be a home underdog for the first time since 2007. I'll say that again, Gabe. Alabama hasn't been a home dog since 2007. It is a remarkable streak, a remarkable statistic, and Georgia is going to come into that game super angry, as you might imagine.
I'm curious to see if Bama actually ends up being the underdog there, just because Jalen Milroe might be the best quarterback in that conference, and you have the best quarterback at home, as good as Georgia is. I know they're coming in. I know they're the number one team, and Alabama's got some work cut out for them. Maybe Bama ends up getting favored just by a point or two in that game.
I want to put a pin in that. I think that Jalen Milroe is far from the best quarterback in the ACC. Let's revisit that a little bit later in the show. Georgia-Bama, to me, the number 4, the fourth-ranked matchup in college football this season. Next.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Ohio State and Oregon. These teams play on October the 12th. These teams are neck and neck to win the Big Ten from an odds standpoint. And the quarterback from Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, is the preseason favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. Let's not forget, in 2021, Oregon came into the shoe as a 2-touchdown dog and hung 35 points on Ohio State in that win. And Ohio State fans have not forgotten about that game, of course. This game's at Oregon. Of course, it's a totally different roster on both sides, but it's an enormous game that will, I think, go a long way in determining who wins the Big Ten Conference.
I mean, yeah, Oregon's coming in. You mentioned with Dylan Gabriel, and they are ready to go. This is a great team coming into the Big Ten. This is probably going to determine who wins or gets the top seed, I should say, in the Big Ten, going to the Big Ten championship game. It's still weird for me with some of these matchups. Ohio State, Oregon, premier Big Ten matchup in the middle of October. But yes, it is one that everybody should highlight because Ohio State is looked at as being that good. And Oregon right there. And to me, in terms of how close they are to Ohio State, is one of the biggest challengers in the Big Ten.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think Ohio State-Oregon on October the 12th is the third best matchup of this season. Next.
Number 2.
And number 2 is Georgia-Texas. These teams play on October the 19th. This is the sort of showcase game, the big welcome to the SEC game for Texas, year one of the conference, and everyone is going to be gunning for Texas. Of that, there is no question. Gabe, it's also a rematch of the legendary 2019 Sugar Bowl when Sam Ehlinger legendarily said, "We're back." And of course, at that point, Texas was not back. But this is an awesome game. And the fact that this is an SEC game is going to be hard for me to get used to. But it's what's going to make college football this season so incredibly special.
Who's starting at Texas at quarterback for that game? Do you think it's still Quinn Ewers, or has Arch Manning unseated him at that point?
I could see it being Archie at that point. I mean, Ewers scares me on two fronts. Number one, he gets injured every single year. He's not been able to keep himself on the field. He has that super slight frame, so they're going to have to protect him really, really well. And I'm just not so sure that at that point in the season, it's going to be obvious that he's the best quarterback on the roster. I want to make it clear. Quinn Ewers is going to be drafted in the first round, but Archie Manning is an outstanding prospect. He's not just famous because he's a Manning. So I could absolutely see a scenario in which Archie Manning is starting against Carson Beck on October the 19th in what I think is the second best game of the college football season. Lastly,
Texas is back, folks. Number 1.
Number 1 is Michigan, Ohio State. They play on November the 30th, and this game is going to have a little bit of everything because there is more venom, more animus, and more hype when it comes to this game, this season, than any in recent memory. It's 3 straight losses for Ryan Day against Michigan, which many of my friends in the Midwest consider a fireable offense. Ohio State has built a $20 million roster, so they don't lose this game for the 4th straight time. I can't imagine a scenario in which Ryan Day and Ohio State lose this game this year, and all hell does not break loose in Columbus?
I agree with you in terms of, because I don't necessarily believe in Michigan. They lost so much. You lose your coach, you lose your quarterback, you're losing a lot of things. And I know that Moore obviously got a lot of the coaching experience last year because Jim Harbaugh missed a couple of games here and there for some oopsies that, may have occurred during his time at Michigan.
Victim of circumstance.
Yeah, it's just, who amongst us hasn't missed 6 games coaching on the sidelines of a college football season. So I do think that it's big for Ohio State. Is Ryan Day on the hot seat if he doesn't win that game because of how stacked it seems like Ohio State should be winning that game in late November as we sit here in late August?
I've got 2 words for you. 2 words for you. And those words are Mike Vrabel. Why do I say Mike Vrabel? Well, Mike Vrabel, who, of course, coached the Tennessee Titans very successfully, is now an assistant, like a consultant type with the Cleveland Browns, is hovering. I know a lot of people that root for the Ohio State Buckeyes, as you very likely do as well. And they have grown a little bit disenchanted with Ryan Day, in large part because he lost 3 consecutive games to the Michigan Wolverines. And Mike Vrabel is hovering. I have no idea, none, if Mike Vrabel wants to coach college football. But Ohio State has no excuse to lose more than 1 regular season game this year and no excuse not to make it to at least the Final Four in the playoff. The question is not, is Ryan Day a good coach? Ryan Day isn't a good coach. He's a great one. The question is Ryan Day the best coach for that job, given the enormous amount of resources that they provide him? If he loses a couple games this year, a couple games he should not lose, those screams coming from Columbus, Ohio are going to get louder and louder and louder. And I think Mike Vrabel will be the number 1 person on that list to backfill that head coaching job.
There are a lot of people at ESPN Radio that love college football. I don't know if anybody loves college football more, though, than Ian Fitzsimmons, host of Amber and Ian. And here's what he had to say about Ohio State and even the thoughts of replacing Ryan Day.
Here's my question to any Ohio State fan that is looking to replace Ryan Day. Who are you getting that's better? He's 56-8. He has the highest winning percentage of any coach active in college football right now. I think they not only beat Michigan, they're obviously going to make the college football playoff. I think they're going to win a Big Ten title. They're going to survive and advance in the college football playoff. And if they make the Final Four or get to the Natty, then what? Are you still, because if they don't win a national championship and lose by 1 score, are you still blowing up Ryan Day? Because if you are, man, hey, Buckeyes, you're football fools, because I don't know who you're going to get that's better than that guy right now.
I think Hembo gave you the one answer that I think would be closer to rational. But I mean, this all comes down to just Ryan Day's 1-3 against Michigan, right? Because 55-5 against everyone else, that plays everywhere. But it all comes down to him being 1-3 against a rival that you absolutely dominated and you had absolutely owned for, what, a decade, 15, 20 years? Ohio State owned Michigan until the last handful of years when Jim Harbaugh finally had success against Ohio State, because Jim Harbaugh didn't have success initially at Michigan against Ohio State. So I think it's all on that. It's all because Michigan just won the national championship. And a lot of times when it comes down to Ohio State, Michigan, it doesn't matter what you did against everybody else. It matters what you did against that rival. That's how intense that game is, which is probably why it was number 1 on the green list today.
Cam, I need you to help me thread this needle, because on one hand, every single thing that Ian just told you about Ryan Day is true. He is highly successful, and there is no list of the best coaches in college football right now on which Ryan Day is not at or near the very, very top. His record speaks for itself. On the other hand, you and I both know lots of Ohio State fans, and we know how high the burden is there to win and how important it is to win that game and to do high-level winning. Where should I fall on this? Is Ryan Day closer to being fired, or is Ryan Day closer to what Ian Fitzsimmons is saying as one of the very best coaches in football that has no business being in that conversation?
I mean, he's certainly both. I think he's closer probably to being fired than a championship, because it's just so tenuous that, like, it seems like one more loss to Michigan, even if they have a couple wins in the CFP, would get him the boot, especially if you think, like you do, that Mike Vrabel is waiting in the wings. I think that would be a very specific circumstance if it were Mike Vrabel replacing him. Mm-hmm. But like Ian said, it's not like there's a bevy of replacement options. Yes, Chip Kelly is their OC, so he's a guy who has head coaching experience, but seemed to get out of head coaching to get into being an OC. Obviously, coaching at Ohio State is different, but you don't have guys lining up, or at least great guys that are at the caliber of Ryan Day lining up for this job as you might have in the past, just because of where college football is right now. But if you believe a guy like that is Mike Vrabel, and you're just sick of losing to Michigan and sick of a loss early or even late without a championship in the college football playoff, then I think Ryan Day is, as good as he is, somewhat close to being fired.
Gabe, can I ask you a question and then duck?
Yeah.
So let's live in a world in which, let's say that Ohio State loses a game or two this year that they should not, and they fail to meet expectations. I don't think it's going to go to heck in a handbasket, but I don't think, let's say for the sake of conversation, that they're going to go undefeated. Let's just say for the sake of this conversation, they lose 2 or 3 games. Is there any chance, that they'd rehire Urban Meyer?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you can, right?
Like he's done legally could.
Well, he's done too much damage at this point to himself, has he not?
I mean, they're more likely to hire him than the Jaguars are. That's for sure.
Well, yes, I don't think
Bobby
any
Petrino
NFL
is still
team,
coaching, for God's sake.
That's a great
At
point.
Arkansas, for God's sake.
It's a great point. Does Urban want to coach anymore? Or is he done? Because he dove in head first to Jacksonville. And
You've interviewed lots of guys. You've interviewed all these people.
He does want to
coaches coach. He's going to be there on the set on Fox talking about Ohio State losing. He's going to be in the shoe, and they're going to be chanting, Urban, Urban, Urban. That's an itch that those guys never fully scratch.
Even if they lose a couple of games they're not supposed to, they're probably making the college football playoff regardless, right? I just can't imagine a world where this Ohio State team isn't one of the top 12 at the end of the season.
Oh, totally.
So, let's say in this hypothetical world, they lose to Michigan, but they're still in the college football playoff.
Okay.
How far would he have to go for him to think his job is safe?
Natty.
Right? Because, again, it comes down to losing or winning. He has to win the Natty.
At least get there.
Because I feel if he gets there, there's still whispers of, well, we didn't win the championship and we lost to Michigan this year.
Gabe, he's coaching a $20 million roster. They have put so many resources into this program this season that I think the bar for him to clear is higher than any coach in America. That is inclusive of Kalen DeBoer replacing Nick Saban. It is inclusive of Kirby Smart, whose job is obviously as secure as can be. It is inclusive of every coach in the country.
Ryan Day's on. If Ryan Day gets fired, he's unemployed for what? 2 seconds? 3?
He'll go to the NFL. He'll be an NFL head coach next season.
I mean, because the record speaks for himself. It's 55-5. Every 11 games he wins, he only loses once.
This is how Ohio State fans like to say it: 55-5. That's how they think about Ryan Day.
That's
more importantly, 1 and 3.
1 and 3.
I just can't wrap my head around him not actually being the coach. Again, it would have to be an extremely specific situation where I think you could talk me into Vrabel. But do I think that Urban Meyer can reach the athletes of today? No, I don't. I really don't. Like Chip Kelly's their OC. He's the OC because he doesn't want to be a head coach anymore. He doesn't want to deal with the stress. He just wants to call his offense the way he wants to call his offense. He wants to have fun doing that.
Well, we know Urban can get along with young people.
Yeah, we do.
Jeez. Okay, then. This is Greeny, coming to you live from Seaport. It's brought to you by Grey Goose. Coming up next, is it a myth that being the hunted is harder than being the hunter? One team about to find out. It's Greeny, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app.
Hey, it's Michelle Smallman, and coming up Monday, college football is underway, and I'm going to tell you who the biggest threat is to Ohio State and Georgia. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Critics and audiences can't get enough of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Next level.
It's the most fun you'll have watching a movie this summer.
The hierarchy of power in the Marvel Universe is about to change forever. You really are God's perfect idiot, aren't you?
It's Marvel's biggest triumph.
Damn straight it is.
It's a maniacal, meaningful masterpiece.
Let's go. Yes! This is what I'm talking about.
Deadpool and Wolverine, now playing. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
You found Cincinnati's ESPN 1530.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/radio. Through HIMS, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at HIMS, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/radio and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free, with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. hims.com/radio.
Hey, if you're listening to me right now, I have one thing every business needs most: attention. Think about it. We swipe and scroll past stuff all day. But when we're driving, cooking, and working out, we're also listening. That's the magic of audio at iHeart. We're in your next customer's ears while they're living life and listening, just like you are right now. So get your customers to listen up today using radio, digital, and podcasts. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
For decades, the mafia had New York City in a stranglehold, but the murder of Carmichael Lanti marked the beginning of the end.
It sent the message that we can prosecute these people.
From the minds behind the acclaimed television series, listen to Law and Order: Criminal Justice System on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Open your free iHeart Radio app and search Law and Order: Criminal Justice System and start listening.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeart Radio Earth. Education doesn't just take place in the classroom. There are many ways children of all ages can learn about sustainability and the environment at home. Visit iHeartRadio.com/earth for a list of resources, activity guides, and toolkits that are educational and fun for the whole family. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/earth.
We need your help to protect your right to AM radio in your car. AM is always there in times of need with the key information for our community. The overwhelming majority of legislators support a bill to keep AM radio in cars, but time is running out. Please text the two letters AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to the floor for a vote now. Text AM to 52886.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month. Text stop to stop. A message from the station.
It's better over here. If you're 5 and up, T-Mobile has an exclusive rate plan just for you. Right now, get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for just $30 a line. That's a 45% savings versus Verizon and AT&T. Plus, you can get one of the latest 5G phones free when you add a line. That's right, a free 5G phone. Experience all this and more on America's largest 5G network. So why wait? At T-Mobile, customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for only $30 a line. Just go to T-Mobile.com/choice55 or visit your local store to make the switch.
With AutoPay using debit or bank account plus taxes and fees, 45% off 2 lines versus AT&T Starter and Verizon Welcome. Plan benefits vary. Free phones up to $300 off with 24 monthly bill credits and qualifying new line for well-qualified customers plus tax and $35 device connection charge. Contact us before canceling entire account to continue remaining bill credits. Bill credits end if you pay off device early. See details at T-Mobile.com.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Diego.
Hi, Diego. It's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to say your cashback match makes me feel so special. It really inspired me.
That's great. Doubling the cashback you've earned at the end of your first year is what we do.
Well, I'm doubling everything now. Double dating, double dipping, double feature, double header, double whammy. Basically double or nothing.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Cincy 360.
It's not disrespect to him, but like we got
Two of your favorite hosts.
Keep it moving.
Hung up on the guy.
Tony Pike and Austin Elmore.
I hang up on people all the time. That's what you're supposed to do.
Today at 12 noon on ESPN 1530.
This is 180. ESPN Radio's NFL Two-A-Days. The Detroit Lions.
This is Eric Woodyard covering the Lions. And in Detroit, all eyes will be on Jamison Williams. Is the wide receiver poised for a big leap? The 2024 season could be a make or break one for the 12th overall pick of the 2022 draft. During OTAs in May, Lions head coach Dan Campbell lauded Williams as the team's most improved player. He is a man on the mission, Campbell said. And I'm just going to leave it at that. As a rookie, Williams missed 11 games while recovering from an ACL injury, then was suspended for the first 4 games of last season for violating the NFL's gambling policy. But he is expected to enter this year's training camp fully healthy with his sights set on unlocking his full potential.
I never thought I'd say this, but the Detroit Lions are contenders. They proved it last year, and I think their window's open. We discuss right now. It's Greeny, ESPN Radio, ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Greeny, presented by Progressive Insurance. I'm Gabe Neitzel, along with Hembo and the Detroit Lions, a team that last year was dominating at the end of the first half of the NFC Championship game, ultimately falling to the San Francisco 49ers. I think, Hembo, are primed to have yet another successful season. I think their head coach and Dan Campbell is going to keep them focused. I don't think they're one of these teams that was just going to be a flash in the pan and then kind of fade to the back after losing a big game like in the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship game like they did last year. They locked up all their important pieces during the offseason. I see a very successful season on the horizon for the Detroit Lions.
I agree with you entirely. We talk a lot about off-season wheelings and dealings. We don't talk much about off-season retention. The fact that the Lions kept both of their coordinators, most importantly, Ben Johnson, is really consequential because that guy is as good an offensive coordinator as there is in the league right now. And we know he had all sorts of job opportunities or at least job interest in the last offseason, and he chose to come back. He chose to come back and coach Jared Goff and try and lead the Lions to the Super Bowl, which I think they have a really good chance to do. If I had to bet right now, I would say they are the team in the NFC likeliest to be the number 1 seed. The path, I think, is very straightforward. And the fact that they have all that continuity with the coaching staff returning and the young talent around Jared Goff, who's played really well in that system the last 2 years, Gabe, I think provides them a very clear path to the 1 seed in the NFC.
We talk a lot about culture and locker room environment and all of that. And I think that the Detroit Lions, the way they buy into Dan Campbell and his messaging that's a big reason why the Lions, as an organization, a team that just had not had a lot of postseason success over the last 30 years, has now gotten to this point because they have bought into what Dan Campbell is selling. I don't know if I've done a 180 on a coach in any sport more than I've done on Dan Campbell. I enjoyed making the jokes as much as the next guy when he was making the sound effects of taking the shots of espresso or biting the kneecaps. But his message has gotten across to his team, and they are fully bought in.
Yeah, and it's a young team. I'm going to say the name of a bunch of players on the Lions, Gabe. Aiden Hutchinson, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jack Campbell, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Sam Laporta. What do they all have in common?
They're all really young players.
They're all 25 or younger.
Yeah.
The Lions have more 25 and under studs than any team in the sport, and that is why it is pivotal that they capitalize on this window now. It is a window that opened last year and will start closing after next because, as you well know, once the quarterback cap number explodes, once the young players start to get their contracts, that's when everything begins to splinter. Right now, the Lions are sort of in their sweet spot. They have a team in which they're going to be favored to win 13, 14, 15 games this season. They're that good. They've got the best offensive line in football. They've got a quarterback who in that system plays like a top 10 quarterback. He's got good skill guys around him, and the defense is going to be a much improved unit. Last year, they allowed more big plays than any team in football. Even if they're average in that area this season, the defense is going to be a lot better. And they play 14 out of 17 games indoors. And that's a huge deal considering Jared Goff plays so much better in that controlled environment. I see very few paths in which the Lions season doesn't end in a really highly successful manner.
Is Jameson Williams the key to unlocking this offense? I mean, this offense was really good a year ago, but if he starts living up to the first-round pick potential that he had a couple of years ago, and that's been derailed because of injury and then because of his own actions with violating the gambling policy in the NFL, is he the key to unlocking this team offensively and taking them to another level?
Yes, absolutely. It's only 3 touchdowns in 2 years, and this is a player who swung the national championship game by himself when he got hurt his last game in college. He was a freak talent in college and has only really flashed that in the NFL. But what we know about the Lions is that Amon-Ra St. Brown is as good between the 20s as any player in the sport. He's such a good possession receiver. We know that Sam Laporta plays that position, plays the tight end position really, really well and should continue to improve. He's an outstanding pass catcher. What they don't really have, though, is that downfield guy, that downfield, that go-getter. We need to score a 60-yard touchdown. That's what Jameson Williams theoretically was going to provide, but he hasn't actually provided that. His career to date has been a major disappointment. Gabe, I think you've called this right. If Jameson Williams can be a legitimate number 2 receiver and provide some more explosivity to that offense, that would be sort of the nail in the coffin for the rest of the conference.
Yeah, because you start looking around right now, it's, okay, we have to pay attention to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have to pay attention to him. Sam Laporta, one of the best young tight ends in the league. Okay, we got to pay attention to that. Whoever that second wide receiver, do we really have to pay that much attention to him? Probably not. Khalif Raymond, Donovan Peoples-Jones. No, but if Jameson Williams, because he can be that guy. You mentioned the impact he had when he was at Alabama and how good he was, and I was excited to see him play for the Detroit Lions in the first 2 years. I mean, the first year, whatever, you're coming off of an ACL surgery, you're just trying to get some of those snaps, under your belt and get ready to go. Last year was the really disappointing one, where he ended up having initially 6 games, it gets reduced to 4 games, but then he just doesn't do anything consistently throughout the course of the season. So I think if you're a Lions fan, what you're hoping is, okay, we had the full off season. Now he can start the season with the team. It's the first time he's been able to flow all of that together, and hopefully that is what he needs to take that next step in his career.
Yeah, Jameson Williams caught 15 touchdowns his final season in college, the average of which was 48 yards long. He had 714 yards on those
15 touchdowns
catches.
That's outrageous.
He is a really talented player, and you don't need that out of him. But if he could just harness the skill that we know he has, I'm not asking him to become a 1. I'm just asking him to be a 2, to stretch the field in ways that the Lions haven't been able to. And it's such a valuable skill in today's NFL. It's not that easy to be all that methodical and create touchdown drives, 6, 7, 8 plays at a time. Every once in a while, it's really helpful to have someone that can just pop the lid off the defense, and we saw him do that so successfully in college. That is an outrageous statistic to demonstrate the fact that that's in his bag. If Jared Goff gets that version of Jameson Williams, it's going to be a basically unstoppable offense, given the fact that Goff is going to be protected so extraordinarily well.
It's the one thing every offense is looking for. Even the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a reason they decided to go out and get Xavier Worthy, because they wanted that top-end speed to take tops off the defense. Greeny, presented by Progressive Insurance. For a job you'll love, visit progressive.com/careers. Coming up next, the new college football playoff going to change the journey to the championship. But is it going to change the outcome? That's next. Greeny on ESPN Radio.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Brakes? We can save you 15% on that. We have OE quality Duralast brake pads and rotors in stock, ready for pickup or delivery. We also have calipers, brake fluid, tools, and anything else you'll need to do the job right. When you get Duralast pads and rotors together, you'll save 15%. It's just part of what makes us America's #1 brakes destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Progressive presents Renter's MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Tom Kelly's carbon fiber mountain bike. Because more than riding his carbon fiber mountain bike, Tom loves telling people about his carbon fiber mountain bike. Friends, family, even a local barista knows about his carbon fiber mountain bike. And that's why Tom's carbon fiber mountain bike, if you haven't heard about it, is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
ESPN 1530, Cincinnati's sports station.
You sailed beyond the horizon in search of an island scrubbed from every map. You battled krakens. You navigated through storms. Your spade struck the lid of a long-lost treasure chest while you cooked up a lasagna. There's more to imagine when you listen. Discover best-selling adventure stories on Audible.
In this week's Marketers Report, Dana Nussbaum, Executive Vice President, Worldwide Marketing at Warner Brothers Discovery, weighs in on regional audio marketing.
Although we're marketing at a very broad scale, it does include specific local markets, and that's the beauty of iHeart's network.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the audiences, influencers, and data you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
It's time to open in Orange. The highly anticipated Bengals home opener kicks off Sunday, September 8th at 1 p.m. when the Bengals welcome the Patriots to the jungle.
For the first time, the team will be wearing all orange uniforms. The challenge is on to join the team and fill Paycor Stadium with everyone all wearing orange.
A very limited number of Bengals Patriots tickets are still available. Visit Bengals.com/tickets. Come orange out the jungle with us.
The only thing more satisfying than a crisp fall day is a crisp fall day inside your cozy, spotless home. Right now, shop Labor Day savings on select cleaning essentials and exclusive brands from the Home Depot. Plus, with fast free delivery, you don't have to worry about running out of your favorite cleaners, paper products, trash bags, and more. The Home Depot has everything you need to get ready for a fall refresh. Get your home crisp, clean, and ready for the season with the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Free delivery on over 2 million items subject to availability.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war in term life. Industry rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, a man aged 45, non-smoker, can get $1 million of coverage for $75 per month, level rate for 10 years. Or a man aged 50, non-smoker, can obtain $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of $110, level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, we have great rates available for you as well. At Term Busters, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. If you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call for a free quote today. 800-200-2250. That's 800-200-2250. Don't wait. Call 800-200-2250. 800-200-2250. Sample rate quotes based on preferred non-smoker rate class. Exam required to qualify.
From the Durbin Cooling Tempstar Weather Center, here's your forecast.
This report is sponsored by Bank of America.
We are finally back to traditional August heat today with a high of 85, but not the traditional humidity. Your sky's mostly sunny and the air very dry. And for our Friday night football games, y'all, we are good to go. By 7 o'clock, we'll be at 83. By 10, we will have cooled to the low 70s. Overnight, we drop to 60, and then tomorrow, it's going to be a hot one. Highs end up at 89 under a partly cloudy sky. That's the forecast. I'm 9 First Warning meteorologist Jennifer Ketchmark.
Bank of America has powerful digital solutions for local and global businesses, so you can make every move matter. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. Bank of America, N.A., copyright 2024.
From the ESPN 1530 studio. Built by Madewell Restoration. Make sure your home's exterior is made well. Visit MadewellRestoration.com. This is 1530 WCKY, the 50,000-watt orange and black home of the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati's ESPN 1530.
This is SportsCenter.
Good morning, I'm Doug Brown. No further word from the Bears on the condition of defensive back Douglas Coleman III. He was carted off the field and hospitalized after making a tackle against the Chiefs last night. Chicago coach Matt Eberflus says Coleman did have movement in his extremities. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports Chiefs center Creed Humphrey will sign a 4-year, $72 million extension. He'll now be the highest-paid center in NFL history. Baseball, the Braves beat the Phillies 3-2. Adam Duvall with a home run for Atlanta. At the Little League World Series, Lake Mary, Florida advances to Saturday's U.S. Championship game with a 6-3 win over Henderson, Nevada. Venezuela will play Chinese Taipei in the international title game. Both of those games tomorrow on ABC, starting at 12:30 Eastern Time.
From the ESPN studios at Pier 17 in the Seaport District of New York City, this is Greeny with Mike Greenberg on ESPN Radio. You can also listen and watch the show on the ESPN app.
25 hours from now, the college football season is kicking off over in Dublin, Ireland. Georgia Tech and number 10, Florida State. This is Greeny, ESPN Radio, ESPN app, Sirius XM, Channel 80. Greeny presented by Progressive Insurance. I'm Gabe Nutt, along with Hembo. Help us talk a little bit about that college football season. We welcome in Peter Burns from the SEC Network. Also catch him with Courtney Cronin, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Sundays on ESPN Radio. The Best Week Ever team is going to be doing Unsportsmanlike Monday and Tuesday, so make sure you're keeping an ear open for that. Plus, Peter's joining us right now from PGA Tour headquarters in Florida because he is covering the BMW Championship over on ESPN Plus. You got a lot of things going on, Peter, so thank you for carving out some time to talk a little college football.
I'm the Swiss Army knight of average broadcasting. It's so incredible that you put me in there and I'll do anything. But all joking aside, that's the reason why I do this week for BMW Championship, because traditionally this is my least favorite week of college football. Let's say that we didn't have the great game in Ireland between Georgia Tech and Florida State. We have talked about every single storyline 9,000 times, and I'm like, I need like a brain cleanse. So I'd go out there. I called BMW Championship, got a chance to call Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele yesterday. That was crazy. Keegan Bradley was the last guy in this field. He shoots 66 to Ryder Cup champion or captain. That was a great storyline, but basically it's just to get me closer and closer to college football, because this, guys, Himbo, we've talked about it as well too. This might be the most anticipated college football season in, I think, 2 decades, frankly.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Peter, that is the beauty of you.
Okay, then.
I don't know where to go from. I think that's kind. The beauty of you. Put that on my headstone.
That's the beauty of you.
That.
Let's dive in to Georgia and Ohio State, top 2 teams in the country. Which team is the biggest threat to those two?
If you look at, I feel like the playoff odds for both of those squads are minus 600. I've stopped even talking about Georgia to a certain extent because I always feel like they're already in a 12-team playoff, despite how tough that schedule is because of the job that Kirby's done. I honestly, the more and more that I talk to people down in Tuscaloosa, and yes, I know Paul Feinbaum wanted to go off and get up talking about the dynasty is dead. I don't know if the dynasty is dead. I just think it's the same throne, just a new dragon atop. And that's what I see out of Kalen DeBoer in the job that Jalen Milroe has done as far as now them working a playbook that fits Jalen Milroe. Remember, guys, last year they were making Jalen Milroe play the same one as Tyler Buckner and the same playbook as Ty Simpson. And they're like, guys, here's a playbook. Y'all figure it out. Well, once they realized that Milroe was the guy, they started looking at building the offense around them, and it was off to the races. I think Kalen DeBoer has done a great job about doing that in Tuscaloosa. Even more so, when I talk to people down in Tuscaloosa, they feel like there's just a new kind of energy and there's a lightness around it where I think everybody, including the coaches, including the staffers, walked around eggshells in Alabama simply because you were coaching with the greatest coach in the history of the college football game.
Peter, in the last hour, Gabe said, and I think somewhat strongly, that he expects Jalen Milroe, to be the best quarterback in the conference this season. And that kind of took me aback. I'm a really big fan of Carson Beck, but I also recognize that Kalen DeBoer did the Lord's work with Michael Penix over the last couple of years in Washington. Yeah. Do you think there is a clear path for Jalen Milroe to being the best quarterback in the SEC this season?
I think him. Also, I think with Jackson Dart over at Ole Miss with the weapons that Lane Kiffin has put around him in Oxford, I think that's the 1-2. And the reason why I didn't say Quinn Ewers, nor did I say Carson Beck, is because I think the way that Sark and Kirby Smart have built their team is around the team aspect. Beck to me almost looks more of, and again, maybe you call it Stetson Bennett, but when you look at the numbers, they were incredible, of more of keep the game in front of you. I don't need you to be out there and throwing 450 yards and have this unbelievable offense. I think for Jalen Milroe, they can expect that. And I think there's a lot of people that haven't been around Alabama football, and I was being one of those guys, right? Like, how in the world? Like, once Saban retired, everybody's gonna hop ship. They're gonna transfer out, and the dynasty is dead. Again, I think I look at it as like an unbelievable old country club that all of a sudden somebody came in and put a new fresh paint on it. The country club's still great, and they've maybe even upgraded it to a certain way in this name, image, and likeness and transfer portal world that we live in now.
Peter Burns from the SEC Network, also host of Best Week Ever here on ESPN Radio. Joining us on Greeny, I'm Gabe Neitzel along with Hembo. You're singing the praises, and you seem very high on Alabama. So when it comes to Michigan and Alabama, both moving on from their championship head coaches, which one is going to have a tougher time?
There's no doubt that it's going to be Sharon Moore up there in Michigan, and not only because of just filling into that role, right? Kellen DeBoer, every time that he's gone to a place, you've seen that he's had success. He's been in that head coaching role. And, for Moore, yeah, he had an opportunity to do it, but it was more kind of, hey, we needed you to be the designated driver while Harbaugh was out. By the way, look at the amount of talent that left Ann Arbor that's playing over there in the NFL on Sundays right now. So to me, I think that's the harder road, and especially coming in with the schedule that Michigan's going to have as well. I don't think that that's easy. Remember, Texas and Sark, they're headed up to Ann Arbor over in week 2. And then if you also look at the Big Ten schedule now, it's not just Ohio State, Penn State, and anybody else. You're adding Oregon in there. You're adding Lincoln Riley. And if they can find a defense, that's going to be a really intriguing team. So I think the Wolverines will ultimately struggle more. I think that ends up being a 9-3 team. I don't see 3 losses on the schedule for Alabama this season.
Yeah, Michigan's schedule is brutal, in large part, of course, because they have to go to Columbus this season. In the last hour, we talked a lot about Ohio State, a lot about Ryan Day, and whether or not this year is pivotal in terms of his job retention. Now, you obviously look at his record, and it says he's one of the very best coaches in all of college football. Is it fair or unfair for us nationally to look at Ryan Day, the job he's done at Ohio State, and say he is legitimately on the hot seat this season?
The reason why I don't think he is because you can still lose to Michigan and be a college football playoff team. Okay. Now, mind you, they also spent probably $15 million in name, image, and likeness to import this squad that frankly should be the most talented roster. I think if you look top to bottom, you could argue that Ohio State's roster may be even better than Georgia's roster right now. So there is a lot of pressure. But if this was a 4-team playoff and all of a sudden you were talking about the game, right? If you're talking about Ohio State and Michigan, and after Harbaugh left and all these Wolverines went to the NFL and they were to lose to they were to lose to Michigan again, then, buddy, buckle up. But because he can fall back down and just go, okay, yeah, we lost that game. Okay, well, what are we now? Now we're going to be the 8th seed or the 7th seed and still be able to host a home playoff game versus an inferior opponent and win that one. It's almost like a parachute backup plan for Ryan Day. I mean, now again, if he goes out there and loses 3 games, then all bets are off. And then all of a sudden, maybe Brian Kelly at LSU is like, hey, maybe I'll go back up north. No, I'm just joking. I'm completely joking about that. I'm going to get a text from BK in a little bit going, what the hell are you talking about?
It's still weird to see him on that sideline. I will give that to you.
Peter Burns from the SEC Network joining us here on Greeny, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. Gabe Neitzel, Hembo in today. I don't know if critical is too strong of a word, but the 12-team playoff, I guess I've been skeptical the entire time leading up to it, Peter. Here's the reason why. Peter, here's the reason why. Because it felt like, other than last year, it's 2 or 3 teams that actually have a chance at winning the college football national championship, and then we're just kind of placating every other team. Am I right or am I wrong about that? And are there more teams like there were last year? Because there were 6 or 7 teams last year that could have won a national championship for this year in the 12-team playoff.
You know why that is? It's because of name, image, and likeness. It's because of transfer portal. It's because the guys don't want to sit on the bench for 3 years. They want to play right here, right now. So those upper echelon teams, yeah, they're still going to be incredible, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, they used to be 9.5 and 10s. They might be a 9 now, but some of that talent is going to trickle down. And all of a sudden, some guys want to play for a Miami. Some guys want to play for an Ole Miss. Some guys want to play for Missouri. Some of these non-traditional powerhouses that we've seen over the last decade. And when that trickles down and you capture something, you can have, a 2-loss season, but still get hot at the right time. I think the thing that's going to be interesting is the litmus test for how many of these programs, and I look for 2 in particular. Missouri with Eli Drinkwitz over in Columbia, Missouri, and also with Lane Kiffin down in Oxford, is these programs went all in on the transfer portal. They went all in on NIL. Does this mean success? Or did you just kind of, quote-unquote, throw money at it? Because when Jimbo Fisher went after him, when the first year of kind of name, image, and likeness and collectives, it felt like there was a bunch of mercenaries that didn't want to play for Jimbo. They were just there just because, hey, listen, maybe the highest bidder in the collective world. I think how you're seeing teams become more of an NFL squad, kind of like how they're now starting to hire GMs, Embo. I mean, college football teams are hiring GMs to manage their quote-unquote salary cap and NIL money.
Yeah, that's a very bizarre thing to see. Alabama GM. We saw him get nearly $1 million a year to do this thing, but I think that's probably the method that we're going to see, considering coaches just kind of want to coach. You said that Georgia and Ohio State seemingly have the best rosters in the sport, and I agree with you entirely. But let's live in this world like you just said. A team gets hot at the right time, and that right time, of course, is at the end of the season. So if I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be the Buckeyes, it's not going to be the Bulldogs, which team do you think is best equipped to make a run at the national championship among everyone else, aside from those 2 teams who I think most people view as head and shoulders over everyone else?
I had an opportunity to be down there in Austin and watch Sark and the way that he's approached this team. And, guys, I'm telling you, I've seen championship-level squads at Alabama and Georgia and even, at Michigan and what they look like coming off the bus and how they handle themselves. It's everything that the Texas Longhorns look like. And they were knocking on the door last year. Quinn Ewers comes in. Now, mind you, they had a couple of issues at running back. That was a position that they were pretty deep in. Texas is the real deal, boys. And normally a lot of people would be like, Texas is going to come in the first year of the SEC, and I think that they're going to do extremely well. They got their butt whooped by Arkansas in 2021, and I think it was an important lesson for Sark to learn. No matter how many shiny things you have as far as receivers and running backs and quarterbacks, if you don't have an interior offensive line and defensive line, you're hosed. He's fixed that. That's the team I think is scheduled for a run.
Who's starting at quarterback for Texas by the end of the year?
It'll still be Quinn. I mean, again, and to credit, Arch Manning has played this thing perfectly. He got an opportunity when he listened to Peyton and Eli. That's the reason why he went to Austin, was not because he needed to play once, right off the bat. Eli and Peyton didn't play a ton as a freshman. I think the Manning family went to him and says, hey, learn the game, enjoy your first year of college, get to know the playbook, you're going to play a little bit more, and when the time is right, you're going to get the keys to the kingdom. I love that. And I mean, I know Evan a couple of days ago said about the idea of redshirting NFL rookies. Basically, we had the throwback red shirt of Arch Manning, and frankly, I'm here for it. And I think Arch could tell you that it's going to be better for him and his progression to be an NFL quarterback.
Peter, the beauty of you, if you don't mind me saying, is that not only are you so plugged in emotionally with what goes on in the SEC, but you're also super smart. You do your reading, and you know the sort of objective side of things as well. So I'm going to ask you to make an objective evaluation of Jaden Daniels, former LSU quarterback, where you, of course, went to school. His on-ramp to the NFL is a really interesting one. He obviously is extremely experienced and came on really late in his college career, kind of like Joe Burrow did. What are your expectations for our NFL audience here for Jaden Daniels in Washington in year one, starting from week 1?
Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Right away.
I think so, yeah. I mean, again, if you're talking about the guys, and yes, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to put up numbers, and everybody is loving Caleb Williams, but I look at how Jaden has progressed, and you nailed it, Himbo. 2018, Joe Burrow was okay. I watched every single game, and all of a sudden, he found the right offense. And Cliff Kingsbury is not being talked about enough as being his offensive coordinator. And if you go back and look, and just the way that Dan Quinn has talked about him, giving him permission to check out of plays even early in his games, he's comfortable. The team loves him so far. He's got weapons around him. I just thought that there was incredible value when you look at he's almost 6-1 for the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, and everyone's piling money into Caleb Williams. I love Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be fun, but I also think it's going to be more of a roller coaster ride. And as long as Jaden Daniels learns how to eventually slide, he'll be in decent shape. Take it to the board right now, right there, Gabe. Put it out.
All right. I mean, I'm going to run to my local spot here right after the show is done. Peter's telling me those are where the odds are at, so I got to run. I got to go do that right after the show. We appreciate it, Peter. Have fun on PJ Tour Live today.
We will have fun. We're getting ready to call. And then we've got Hideki Matsuyama and Kala Morikawa. We got everything right now. And Hembo, I'm just going to put all the drinks in your tab when I get up to New York City. So
you got it, buddy.
Make sure you tell them get it open, okay?
You're a good man.
Perfect.
Peter Burns, SEC Network, Best Week Ever host. Again, that coverage beginning over on ESPN Plus. Best Week Ever with Peter Burns, Courtney Cronin, 7 to 10 a.m. Sundays right here on ESPN Radio. And Peter's hoping that Jaden Daniels gets into the zone this season. Get into the zone, brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. Time for a little sneaky Hembo trivia. What do we got today, Hembo?
Derrick Henry rushed for 89 touchdowns in his 20s. That's the 6th most in NFL history. My question for you is this. Who recorded the most rushing touchdowns in NFL history before turning 30 years old? That's the question.
We're going to give you the answer to that question next on Greeny, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app.
Hey, this show and all of ESPN Radio is streaming live on the ESPN app, featuring ESPN Plus, where you get more ESPN. Download the ESPN app today and take ESPN and ESPN Radio everywhere.
Summer's just getting started, so fill your cooler with the smooth and refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. It tastes like real iced tea because it's made with real brewed tea. And with a 5% kick of alcohol, Twisted Tea is perfect for the beach, the lake, or wherever you're hanging out and day drinking with your friends. Look for the bright yellow cans. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Keep it twisted.
Twisted Tea Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please drink responsibly.
It's Wrangler season out there. T-shirt days, denim jacket nights. A pair of broken-in jeans you could live in. Open roads, endless horizons, no destinations. This is when adventure starts calling. And you need to be ready in jeans that are made for the unpredictable journey that we call life. Wrangler, for the ride of life. Shop our newest styles today at Wrangler.com.
ESPN 1530.
Do you want lower monthly payments, a shorter finance term, less interest paid, options over obligations, a lower overall cost of driving? That's the Kelsey way, the Tri-State's #1 Chevrolet lease dealer. Together, let's drive at kelseychev.com.
In this week's Marketers Report, Angela Zapata, CMO Hyundai Motor America, discusses measuring audio.
The measurement capability within audio, I think, surprised all of us. We have seen a huge return on our investment. Seeing real numbers has helped us continue to invest.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia gives marketers access to the data, audiences, and influencers you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartResults.com.
Who doesn't love getting something for free? Labor Day deals have arrived at the Home Depot, and right now you can get a free Milwaukee 18-volt extended capacity battery, $159 value, when you buy a select tool. Get longer runtime and more battery life so you can power all your fall projects. Shop Labor Day deals and get a free battery when you buy a select tool at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Limit 1 per transactions. Exclusions apply. Full eligible tool list in store and online.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war in term life. Industry rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, a man aged 45, non-smoker, can get $1 million of coverage for $75 per month, level rate for 10 years. Or a man aged 50, non-smoker, can obtain $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of $110, level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, we have great rates available for you as well. At Term Busters, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. If you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call for a free quote today. 800-200-2250. That's 800-200-2250. Don't wait. Call 800-200-2250. 800-200-2250. Sample rate quotes based on preferred non-smoker rate class. Exam required to qualify.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with a new way to enjoy our beautiful planet. Reduce your impact on the environment this fall by packing a waste-free lunch for school or work. Avoid foods with excessive packaging. Use reusable cutlery, napkins, cups, bags, and containers, and recycle or compost any waste when possible. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
You've got to watch your NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Nice! Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV and a new phone. Excludes digital only.
Challenges. At the Bob Woodward Foundation, we invest in solutions to help support them in